Hello traders, and welcome back to another market update. Today we're going to be taking a look at the currency market, see what's going on here in terms of some of these major pairs. I'd like to start here with the euro. Taking a look here at this trend line that we have been watching, you can see that overall we are still just hovering around that lower area. Now you can see we had a high here, or a low here, and a higher low here, right? The question will be right now, can this level hold, or are we going to actually fall through here? One thing to look for if you are a bear on Euro USD, at least in my opinion, would be a break, a retest, and continuation if we do get a little bit more of a decisive break. Right now it's a little bit close to tell if we've truly broken underneath. We are just a few pips there underneath kind of this trend line that we've drawn, and we are also kind of holding this little minor support zone right there. So we'll see if price can decide to take one more push to the downside. That could be actually pretty bearish, and we could see some bearish continuation here on the daily chart. Let's go ahead and move on to GBP USD, which is actually sold off pretty nicely now. You can see here on the 4-hour chart, if we take a look here, this is really interesting. We just extended our trend line here that we drew the other day, and what you can see is that we actually have this downward trend continuation that was broken recently to the upside, right? We broke out to the upside, and now we're retesting. And take a look at what we're seeing now. We're seeing actually price holding that level for the most part right now. Will this level hold as a support? There's no guarantee, of course, when it comes to technicals, but I think that the technicals here are saying that there's a pretty good chance that this zone right here could actually hold as a level of support. Now we kind of readjust our levels here, and what you can see is I draw a line across this support level here, right, which now is resistance, right? And then we have this support level here that also lines up nicely with this trend line. To me, there's a pretty good chance that we could see a bounce here on GBP USD off of the lows, and we might even see some continuation back to that level that we just talked about, this previous level of support, now potentially going to hold as resistance once more. We'll see what happens there on GBP USD. Let's take a look here at USD JPY. Now we did break to the upside here. We broke cleanly above this level of resistance here. Now remember, if you go back a few market updates, we saw this level here, right, as a resistance point. Well, when we came out to this area, my initial idea would be that we would see some sort of pullback. We did not quite get that. I was incorrect about my analysis there, and you can see that price did in fact break to the upside. Now the question becomes, where are we going to potentially run with this upward momentum? Well, to me, it could be possible that we see some sort of pullback and continuation, maybe even working our way up to that 112.25 level up here on kind of this level of resistance here, which also was a support zone previously. So to me, that's kind of where I see dollar yen potentially heading if we see some more bullish continuation. Gold is the next one. You can see still trading in this range, but looking awfully close to wanting to break out to the top side. We are kind of just holding this range for the time being. This is the 4-hour chart, and you can see price back and forth for the most part here. If price decides to break to the upside, there might be room to run. We might even get a move back to this recent structure high. You can see this is the close there, and then you also have the actual high right around that 1600 level. So if price decides to get running, we could see a move up to these major two levels. And if you like using multiple targets, these are some ideas to consider, right? Take profit 1, take profit 2, a couple different levels to look at in terms of gold. Now, if price decides to get bearish here, let's talk about the other side of things. If we see a bearish movement here on gold, right? If we break underneath, there might be room to run to a specific level that I really have been watching and I really like, which would be the idea here of, let's see if we insert indicator, moving average. Let's see if we put the 20 period SMA. We could see price make a movement back down. You know, at first, a first stop would be back to the 20 period MA right here, right? Which would likely line up with that lower level of support. But then if we also include, let's see, if we move the 50 period SMA, we'll put it in blue here, we could see a move back to that dynamic level, the 50 period SMA, which is quite commonly you know, retagged or retouched on a move. So we did see a serious move to the upside here. What would that entail if we did see a move back to that 50 period SMA? Well, the MA would probably look something like this, right? And that would mean that we're moving back down, right? Breaking underneath some structure. We'd have to see that 20 period SMA get broken in order for price to continue down to get towards that 50 period SMA. So that's kind of where we're at with it. That's a level that I'm personally watching to see if gold can get a retag of one of these major dynamic support levels. So that's something that I'm considering in my own analysis. Brent crude here, let's take a look here at what we have going on. You can see price has been holding this support level for some time, and it looks like it wants to continue to hold that. We did gap up this week, and we'll see if that gap will just fade, or if we're actually going to hold this level and start getting another rally to the upside there on oil. WTI crude, similar story. You can see here on the daily chart, just holding this trend line for the most part. We will see if that can continue to hold and if we make a move back to some of these recent structure highs. Next up is Euro Yen. Let's talk about how we see this one. What you can see is that we did break out of this downward trend line, but you can see now the counter trend looks like it may want to get retested here. If we bring it back to the 4-hour chart, the idea here being, let's clean up some of these trend lines. And what we have is we have the potential for price to want to come back, retest this trend line to kind of validate and continue that trend to the upside. We did get a nice little stretch to the upside, right? We held this supportive zone down here. We also held it along the trend line, of course. And we did, in fact, break above this recent high. However, price is looking like it kind of wants to triple top and come back to retest at this point. You can see we did get some bearishness come into this market right around here that looks like it may want to continue back down to the downside. Last one is GBP Aussie. Let's talk about this pair. We've been talking about the swing trade idea here on pound Aussie of this upward momentum that we have seen on this market. Now, if you take a look, you can see that we have been holding this trend line nicely, right? We did get a recent structure jump from there, but we retested the line pretty quickly, right? We formed a lower high right here, which a lot of people were saying was potentially bearish. But the idea here is that we are not quite bearish until, in my opinion, we really break underneath this level. If we see something like this start to play out, there might be some bearish trades in it for me. But for the most part, what I'm looking at is with pound Aussie, still that bullish continuation and a bounce off of this level, maybe even back towards recent structure, right? You have this area, this area here, right? If you actually combine these two areas, you can kind of create a zone there, right? And then you have, of course, the recent structure high. Both of those are looking like interesting targets in my opinion. So we'll see what ultimately ends up happening. Guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you got something out of the video, and we'll see you back next time.